Hello and welcome to episode 57 of the Talk Nintendo podcast. I am one of your hosts, Casey Gibson, and joining me this fine evening, as always, the one, the only, Perry Burkham.
Ahoy hoy, everyone. It's me.
Greg Leahy. Or Mr. Burns.
Nope, just Perry.
Just old Perry. So, Perry, we've got a pretty fun and interesting little show we've got going on today, don't we?
We sure do. It's going to be basically normal, like all of our other podcasts before. Nothing really special.
Except we're revamping the formula for today, right? Just for today.
Yeah.
So pretty much the same, but like just a little completely different.
Yeah. Like no eShop roundup, no what we've been playing, no Craigslist roundup, no news.
But we do have two topics of the show.
Yeah, two topics. Yeah, and our first topic is Slime-san. Woo-wee, Slime-san. You know the game.
But wait,
on Switch.
You guys have talked about Slime-san before. Why is that the topic of the show?
Oh, well, we managed to wrangle a couple of the guys that made it on. Yes. Yep. We got Fabian and we got Ben.
Yep.
So that's awesome. We're gonna have an interview with them in any second now. They're about to walk into the studio. See, we have a studio.
Yeah, it's pretty nice too. I mean, I don't like to brag or anything, but there's some mics in here, and there's definitely some recording equipment, and it helps get the job done.
And we super glued some foam to the walls, so you know that we're legit.
Oh, of course, yeah. Keep them sounds from bouncing. But
oh yeah, and we got our pop filters.
Oh yeah, well you gotta. That's mandatory in all podcasting. Now, here's the thing: when we're done with the fine folks over at Fabraz, we've got a little drink, don't we? A little giant margarita. That's
right. We're gonna stop over at the YouTube Saloon, and when I mean that, I just mean that we're gonna have the guys from Giant Margarita on. Well, two of them. We got Ian and Lindsay. The guys that made it, along with some other people, but they don't matter because we only had them on.
Yeah. Yeah, party golf.
Party golf.
So we're going to be talking a little party golf, maybe a little bit of what's in store for the future from those guys as well. So we definitely have a jam-packed episode filled with some really great interviews, and I think they both went really, really well. So I think...
They both went well? What do you mean? We haven't even done them yet.
I think they're both going to go very, very well, and... I think
they're both going to be exactly 45 minutes, and the other one's going to... No.
Yeah, and the other one will be 51 minutes, 13 seconds. So, without further ado, why don't we just get right on into it after this little tiny musical break.
All right, and we are here with Fabraz, a new Nindie developer of Slime-san, and we have Fabian Rastofer.
Hello.
There he is, and Ben Myler.
Hello. I feel so excited.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry, Ben Miller.
Oh,
yes.
I was living a new lifestyle.
Yeah.
I say Myler actually sort of sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, this will set myself apart.
It's Miller time. So, Fabian is the lead, right? Lead and artist is what it says on your site of Fabraz, or just of Slime-san, or just tell us about your roles.
All right, so Fabraz is a small indie studio based in New York. Basically, I founded the company, but when it comes to most of the development, Ben and I are complete equal partners. He does most of the programming side of things. I do most of the art. And then when it comes to game design, we basically are just both on board. Not with us today is also Edgar Castro, who is our third big team member that was part of SlimeSand, did a lot of the level design. And yeah, that's pretty much how our team is built out. Everything else are usually people that we work with temporarily. So like our sound designer, Britt Brady, and the million composers.
Right.
Now, how did you guys meet each other? Was this something through like maybe some sort of schooling or online you hooked up, or?
Yeah. So we met back at Parsons in a Games 101 class, actually. And we just kind of noticed that we worked really well together. Yeah, all three of us met there basically and started working together on games and decided to start the company right after graduation, which was, I guess, now 3 years ago.
Okay, so Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say we also survived a group project, which clearly demonstrated that we have an ability to work together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I remember us meeting at PAX with Ben. I don't think Fabian was there. Or
yeah, we had I believe 2 different booths that the 3 of us all were sort of running back and forth between.
Gotcha.
So like depending on when you visited, there was a different person attending to it.
Gotcha. And I just remember, for some reason, I know, is this more of a full-time thing or a side project or
full-time? So we've been full-time for basically since we started the company. Each game funding the next one.
Oh, okay. So what was your first game?
Very first game was a game called Cannon Crasher. Crasher with an A. Why? Don't ask. I don't know. Sounds funny, I guess. But basically, it was a game about 2 castles facing off with giant cannons, and basically you would try to destroy each other's castle as fast as possible with a worm-like destruction. Where it kind of like pixel eats inside. In between shooting your cannon, you'd be managing army units, magic spells, and other micromanaging kind of abilities to essentially overpower your opponent. And that was a mobile title for iPhone and Android. And then our second game was Planet Diver. That was our first game where we started going more into the PC market. So that was actually a game that was both mobile and PC. And that was about wingsuit diving in space, kind of an arcadey, beat your high score game with a campaign on top of that kind of gives you mission-based tasks. And now, the newest game is, of course, SlimeSand, where we then moved entirely away from mobile and did a PC and then Switch launch. Xbox and PlayStation is actually planned for next year as well. But that's basically been our foray into the console market.
Oh, so this is first on Switch for consoles?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. I was going to say, when you first started out, I mean, obviously you just said you started on iOS. Was the end goal always to get to consoles, or, I know Steam is, a hotbed for indies and stuff, or was that like the primary goal and then just it sort of snowballed from there?
Not quite. We kind of just went with the flow, as in at the time when we worked in Cannon Crasher, which was far before the company was actually founded. I think it's like 5-6 years ago now. The iOS market in particular was still not as flooded, and so it was still a market that was kind of viable. We got like really great Apple feature and things that are really hard to do to get nowadays. Now that the market is so full, with so many apps releasing every day. And when that started to happen, when we started noticing that that market's going to get more and more difficult, that's when we started moving towards PC. And essentially the exact same thing is now kind of happening to PC, which is why we started moving more and more into console, now that Steam has opened up the gates. Not to say that success is impossible there, it's just that for us it kind of felt natural to move from one market to the next. We're pretty happy to land on Nintendo, to be honest. I think that's a pretty good end goal.
I think it also gravitates a bit also towards our own play tendencies, that we occasionally play mobile games. Also grew up with a lot more stuff like Nintendo and console gaming. So that's also where we start.
And admittingly, we kind of just go with whatever idea we like the most next. And SlimeSand is obviously something that could not possibly be on a mobile device in any way.
Though we have been asked about it, which is rather baffling.
Yeah, very baffling.
Why? I couldn't even imagine.
I guess we could go the runner route, but it would essentially be an entirely new game.
Right. That might be kind of cool. Kind of like would it be Slime Sign Forever?
I have no idea.
This has come up in the office.
And that would be it, right? So, I mean, let's talk about inspiration for Slime Song, because now I remember playing it and instantly loving it and going, oh, it's just like Super Meat Boy, but with really cool pixel, 5-color graphics that it's just, and it has a really cool dynamic with the going through the tiles and everything. So, I mean, like, what was your biggest inspiration for it?
So yeah, most people would expect me to answer Super Meat Boy. And while an inspiration, it was definitely not what started the project per se. This was actually, funnily enough, a project that started thematically first, where essentially I was first thinking about what's a fun theme, what could be a protagonist that is not as common as usual, and that's when I started thinking about a slime, basically, the mob that you kill in every RPG right at the start, the loser of every game, essentially. And I thought, okay, how could I write essentially a game around a little slime? And I thought the most fitting kind of narrative for that would, of course, be that right at the beginning of the game, when you hit start, you're gonna lose. Like, Slime Sign is running from this giant worm and you're gonna get eaten, game over. But redemption arc, you can actually then, of course, escape the worm and get back out to freedom. And so that was basically the narrative that's kind of evolved over time when I was just starting to think about it. And then based on that, we basically just talked a little bit about what kind of genres we would want to tackle, and we very quickly established that we always wanted to tackle a platformer because we've played so many back in the past, grew up with them basically. And so we then took inspiration from all of them. We're talking from all the way back to the NES with Super Mario Bros. To Yoshi's Island on the SNES was a big one, Donkey Kong Country, and then up to, of course, modern titles like Super Meat Boy, N++. And I think all of these different inspirations you can kind of tell, especially in level mechanics, if you see what kind of things we introduce. A lot of them are throwbacks and stuff. So yeah, that's essentially how the game started developing into what it is now.
See, that's sort of funny, because if you had just thinking about how Slime Song operates and the big mechanic that sort of separates it from other platformers is being able to, go through certain walls.
Exactly.
And if you hearing that you came up with the actual slime before that mechanic is sort of interesting. It seems like it would have been, playing around, found that really cool mechanic and sort of making something work for that. But it's interesting to hear the other way.
It can honestly happen either way. In this case, it was more that we had a slime, what is fitting for a slime? And we're like, whoa, okay, this morph mechanic of being able to basically go through any object that's green, just like your green slime, opened just so many possibilities in platforming. And that was basically the moment where this game moved from prototype to, all right, this is our next title.
Yeah.
Now sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, now did the mechanic with the dash to speed things up slightly, and when you slime to sort of slow things down, was that something that also came sort of early on when you found that mechanic in the beginning, or is that something that sort of fine-tuned over the course of development?
I'd say it was kind of organic, right, Ben? Basically.
Yeah, no, it was pretty early on. Like, it wasn't immediately with the morph, but it was probably within the first month or two, I think, that we just were trying to figure out other ways to sort of add some depth or layering onto the mechanic.
I think it even started with us just saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if time slows down when you hit that thing? Like, we were literally thinking of oh, let's do this cool slow-mo capture. But then we realized that, oh shit, but what if the timer doesn't get influenced by that?
Exactly, because then you're just going to use it all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. So then suddenly it's a crutch, but you kind of don't want to use it to get a trophy time. And with that in mind, then suddenly organically we're thinking, so what if we do the exact opposite with the other ability, the dash? And it kind of evolved from there.
And then also the sort of a potential spiteful appeal of having floors that are green that you might want to use the time slowdown as a crutch, but then you might fall through and die. That level of sadomasochism toward the players greatly appealed to us.
Absolutely.
Oh, and that's a perfect way to describe it, because this game can get so brutal, especially on the bosses.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We also had so much fun making them, honestly.
Oh yeah. Now I want to talk about a few things. One thing being the journey. I mean, to Nintendo, how easy it was did they reach out to you? Did you, how did that all come? I mean, how did you meet? How did you get in contact or anything? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we originally met people from developer relations of Nintendo America back at GDC, the last GDC. We contacted them and arranged a meeting, and essentially we pitched both the company and the game to them. And it was clearly appealing enough that within a week afterwards, they invited us to become Switch developers and send us a dev kit. And it went really fast after that, which was fantastic.
So when was GDC?
So that was March.
March.
Yeah, March.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Would that have been before or after PAX?
That was after PAX South, but
after
before
PAX.
PAX East.
Yes,
okay.
before we talked to PAX East.
Gotcha,
So they already knew.
Yep.
Yeah. I just can't believe how fast it was. Like, because when I was talking with you guys, I mean, at PAX, it seemed like, we definitely want to have it on Switch, but, that seems like, we're talking about having it, but then, it seemed like a month after, it was like, Slime Song's coming to Switch, and it's like, what?
Yeah, we were stoked.
Yeah, because we were pimping
so
out
are
on
we.
the show. Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because we there were two games that stood out to us a lot, and that was Slime Song and Party Golf, both games that weren't coming to Switch, but we were like, would be awesome on Switch, and then they both came out already. Like, they're already both out. And
so maybe it was you. Maybe it was your magic touch. Like any dev you talk to, bam, Switch.
No, I know. And the thing that stinks is we were doing so many interviews, and it's like, well, we're talking Nintendo. We probably don't need to do an interview with something that's not necessarily coming to a Nintendo console yet. And it's like, we should have totally done that.
Right.
But here we are now, I guess.
That's before we knew indies and nindies were going to blow up on Switch. I don't think anyone could have seen that.
No, that support is amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that sort of brings me into the next point.
Yes.
I mean, you said you knew you wanted to work, on Nintendo and with the Switch, and clearly, you had a relationship with Nintendo. But did you guys ever predict that the scene would blow up on the Switch so much?
Yes. At least for me personally, when it was first announced, the concept was so immediately appealing to me, just of what the device is, that I knew that this is not going to be another Wii U scenario that's not going to sell well. What I did not expect is the approach that Nintendo took in terms of release schedule. I think they've just done so much right. They did everything right. They did from their AAA in-house titles of having a new one essentially released every month, staggering it like that towards Christmas. Genius. Having the indie scene basically fill the gaps the way that they do was an incredible move. Bringing in now games like Doom and getting more 16 plus, 18 plus titles on the Switch, genius move. Working directly with companies like, for example, EA to make FIFA happen, genius move. I mean, they're doing everything right.
They really are. It's like an exact opposite of Wii U.
Yeah.
A complete 180.
It is, and it's not that. It's just kind of like the Wii U was a piggyback off the Wii. I love the Wii U to death. I mean, I have nothing against it, but it's just like I'm a hardcore Nintendo fanboy that has a Nintendo podcast. So
yeah, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, but then I get people at work that's like, oh, you have a Switch? I just met a girl and she's like, oh, do you have a Switch? Yeah. Oh, do you play Splatoon? It's like, who the heck are you? Like, yeah, do I play Splatoon? But I mean, it was just kind of like that would have never happened with a Wii U. Although I do, which is a funny little side here. There's a guy, a coworker of mine, who just got a Wii U and he brings it to work and plays it on the gamepad.
Oh, we do. Are you kidding?
Oh yeah, he just brings it in his backpack.
Everybody in the office, we all bring our Switch and we play 1 hour.
Switch or Wii U?
Wii U.
Oh, Wii U. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot more dedication.
That is okay. That's intense.
But the funny thing is, it's actually not that much. I mean, really, you just set it down and you plug in the console and then you have your gamepad. It's not that big of a deal, actually. It's just
but
anyway.
I think I've seen it on a plane once, which I also was really impressed by.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah. Now Slime Song's out. And what was the release date? When did it come back?
August 3rd in the West.
August 3rd.
Yeah, and then Japan was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. So, I mean, how has it been? How is the response? Are you happy with it? With
Oh
it,
yeah. No, it was a game changer for us.
Past expectations?
Past expectations for sure.
Yes, that is so good to hear.
Yeah,
so good.
It went really, really well for us. Nintendo was awesome in their support. Putting them on the YouTube channel, tweeting.
Your home screen. I hope I look at my home screen on my Switch, and I remember seeing a little thing, a little picture.
Exactly.
It's that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. It really is. So that support has been awesome. And then what's really just blew us away more than anything is the dedicated fan base online. So for example, the Nintendo Switch subreddit, I mean, shout out to them. They gave us so much love on release date. It was amazing.
Yeah, that Nintendo Switch subreddit, they do great work. They're always getting people in there for AMAs and pimping out these games. It's great to see.
Oh, it's really great. So yeah, no, and then that got us attention from people at IGN and Kotaku, Destructoid. So no, it went for just fantastic for us. Absolutely.
You mentioned releasing in Japan. Now,
yeah,
is that a much different process than releasing here? Like, was that something? Yes. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the two biggest aspects really to consider is that when you release in Europe, as opposed to the US, you can still release your game in English and it's gonna do fine. It might do better if there's localization for every country, but it'll be fine. If you release in English in Japan, you're most likely not gonna do fine. So the very first thing you want to do is localize the entire game. And because, of course, the language is quite different, that does entail a good amount of manual labor. So, UI will have to be revised. You'll have to see if your font is even working with it. You will have to go with a Q&A team because you don't know whether it's spelled out correctly or not. And then on top of that, you need a 0 rating in Japan for the Switch. So that means you will have to traditionally apply for that. Which costs a good chunk of money. And the application process only works in Japanese, so you'll need to work with someone to help you out with that. All of which, again, it's not necessarily more complicated, there's just more. There's just more.
Okay.
Yeah. Because to release in Europe and the US, we can get digital H ratings, which are much easier to basically get.
Okay.
Have you seen that, has it gotten off to a quick start in Japan?
Yeah, I think we're currently sitting on rank like 30 something, 35, 36, which from out of all of the games, which we're very satisfied with. And response has been fun because apparently there has been the occasional odd translation work, but from what we've heard is that it actually adds to the appeal, because the oddness about Slime Stand, right, is that for anyone who hasn't played it, it's incredibly thematically inspired by Japan.
Right.
Like a lot. Like we're huge fans. Absolutely, because we're huge fans of the Japanese culture. So you will walk into an onsen, a kabuki theater, maid cafe, all the kind of like set piece locations you think of when you think about Japan. We included in some way in Slime Stand. I mean, even the name just means Mr. Slime in Japan. So they said it adds to the charm because it's a Western take on a Japanese game.
Right. That's great.
Which has an odd Western translations, just like Japanese games used to have in the US with English translations. So in a weird way, it's like a weird mix that actually works.
Yeah, to become the next, like all your bases are belong to us or something.
Yeah, exactly. Shine get, yeah.
Wonderful. So what you're saying is, I mean, you must be extremely excited about the future.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
absolutely.
So the game's out now. It has already had DLC for PC, correct?
Yes. So we released our first DLC, Blackbird's Kraken, on Steam, I can't remember, 2-3 months ago. And that increased the game's content literally by 30%. So we're talking 25 new levels that also have their New Game Plus equivalent. We're talking about entire new storyline, entire new hub world, a resort island where you can even customize your own house. You unlock furniture you can then use to furnish the house.
That's awesome.
And new boss mode, like a new boss, new gameplay modes and mechanics and hazards. So it's a pretty substantial expansion, and that came out on PC already. And we're currently, as we speak, porting it over to Switch. We are actually hoping
right now.
Literally right now. We're multitasking right now.
Ben's over there like typing.
Yeah, exactly. But we are aiming to release it before Christmas for the Switch, which we're really excited about. And then we're also working on a second content patch, which will most likely land first on PC again, and then also eventually make its way to the Switch. So lots of content.
What's that called?
Sheeple's Sequel.
Sheeple's Sequel, right.
And now these are free DLC, right?
Yes, they're free.
Oh, they're free?
Mm-hmm.
I did notice for PC you sell them separately, though, if you want, right?
Yes, think Shovel Knight with Spectre of Torment and that kind of thing.
Is that something you plan to implement with the Switch releases, or is it more just focusing on getting them for people who have already purchased the game?
Yeah, so most likely for console releases, including the Switch, we're just going to bundle them in. We're not going to have individual releases. That's just going to stay like that for Steam.
Okay, cool. Now, when you come up with DLC, especially free DLC, now is this, instead of focusing on maybe another project moving forward, do you still have like ideas swirling that just didn't end up making the original game, so you just wanted to keep pushing that, or is it okay, like we just love this game and everyone's really the response has been so well that we just want to keep giving more to the players who have gone out and purchased the game?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, I'd say. It's also to a certain degree micromanaging team efforts, because Ben, as being the primary programmer, does a lot of porting work for the Switch and for the upcoming Xbox and PlayStation versions. And so that means there's downtime for example, Edgar, who's not here, to design new levels, or there's downtime for me to create some new assets. And so basically, we realized we're going to be busy with the whole porting process until January, and so we might as well use that time to further support our large user base with more cool content of things that didn't make the cut originally, or we just thought of just now, basically. The big one we eventually want to tackle, maybe if possible, but that depends kind of how we do in the next couple of months, would be a level editor. That's the one that we've always kind of dreamed of doing at one point. But for now, I think even just the fact that we can do these two content patches that essentially, I think in combination, increase the game by 50% is just awesome enough.
Awesome. A question for Ben, actually, I guess, if you're doing the majority of the porting, how's it, we've talked to some other developers that, have sort of said working to get these games onto the Switch has been, actually a pretty easy feat. How do you agree that it is easy to work with the Switch? I know the Wii U sort of caused some headaches for people, so.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've dabbled a little bit with the Wii U before this, though we haven't released anything. And obviously now on the Switch, it's just like light years ahead. It's been, I think it took about a month, maybe a month and a half to overall to just get like everything up and running and essentially ready to go through QA on the Switch. So the engine we use is Unity, and between that and Switch, it made it very straightforward to like carry over and make it work on the new hardware. As always, there's a few quirks or things that break down, like a shader might break, or always need to update
resources.
Yes, for any Unity developers, never ever use the resources folder. We can save you a few weeks of suffering from that.
That's good to know. Now,
so there's a few quirks to it, but overall it was painless. I'd say it was pretty straightforward to get everything going.
Don't use resources.
This has left scars on me. I've really just internalized it.
When getting it to run on Switch, were you in constant contact with Nintendo with questions? Were they answering back? Was that? there?
A slight balance. Like there's like a forum you can talk to other developers going through stuff, or that there are representatives from Unity or Nintendo, or kind of like both that you can reach out to. And for like really serious problems, that was a really helpful resource to use. But for the most part, a lot of stuff we could just kind of figure out, whether just through like research time or bang our head against it.
They're quite responsive during the QA process, though. I mean, shout outs to our man Paul. He has been amazing doing all of these logic procedures, very, very much communicating with us nonstop. So when it comes to the actual QA, when there are issues that you don't understand that they report or you don't know how to fix, they're very willing to help you out with that.
Yeah, awesome. That was actually one of the sort of pleasantly surprising parts, was this whole sort of the vibe you get from like Nindies that also kind of extended to our sort of back end dealings of like how we actually talk to representatives. It's all just very, very friendly and helpful.
Yeah, we had a developer on here who was porting a game to Wii U, and he actually worked at Nintendo at the time.
Okay.
His job
the tech
was
support kind of
thing. Tech support. And so he would work on this game at night, send an email to himself about the problems that he had, and then while he was working, he could work on his game with other with NST and stuff like that.
Amazing.
This sounds like an interview, like mid-nervous breakdown. Like this is right before having some kind of like existential crisis.
I can absolutely imagine having like a smoke at the headquarters, like all of his emails.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, that's really cool to hear that. I mean, we've always heard Nintendo's so cool. Especially nowadays. I mean, with their whole Nindy support, how the Nindies have carried the Switch along with Nintendo. It's kind of cool that you guys are a part of that, because I think one of the solid offerings on the shop that it's just like you said, Nintendo has had the support, and I think the fan support, and I've just heard lots of nice things, and it's just what a nice world we live in.
It's not nice to say in 2017.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's definitely been like an element of just like wish fulfillment of like childhood fantasy of getting like having a game on there, talking to people who are all enthusiastic about Nintendo and gaming, and like hopefully having someone have the same kind of experience with our game that like we grew up with, whether like Mario or Yoshi's Island. I know Fabian was a big one.
I'm actually playing that right now. the classics.
Literally right now. Now, talking wish fulfillment, because I know it's a wish of Casey and I's, and obviously this is something that you have had to have thought about and are probably doing something about. But, limited run games, they are going to be doing Switch stuff. And if there's any game out there that's worthy and possible, it's got to be Slime Song. And I can see the box sitting on my shelf, literally right next to Cave Story right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So we know Douglas well. So basically, just send limited run a ton of emails, ton of tweets.
Really?
And we can absolutely talk with him. We basically just have to convince him that there's enough of a fan base that wants it.
See, limited run games is so cool. The only thing with me is that I don't have a PS4. I have a Vita, but I have too many games to play on my Switch and Wii U 3DS. I'm a Nintendo guy, so it's like I wish I could buy like all these really cool indie games. I'd love to have physical versions, but I just don't play them. So it's like I don't want to just get them just to have on my shelf. I want to play them. So now with Switch coming, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
Like I am gonna buy every single game they release probably.
Yep.
And okay, so
I started the campaign, guys. I sent out a tweet. So
nice.
I did actually have a question about the sequel that, or I should say the DLC, Sheeple's sequel. I see you're bringing other indie characters into the fray, and I just sort of wanted to talk about that. Whether how did you decide that you wanted to bring other indies into it, and how are you going about choosing? Are they reaching out to you, or are you reaching out to them?
We have been traveling a lot the past year to a lot of conventions, and so we got to meet a lot of cool devs, really cool devs. Like we got friends with a lot of them, and in most cases, we just at one point, while having drinks, we were like, "Hey, you want your character in Slime Sam?" Yeah, exactly. And oftentimes, it's immediately followed by like, "Heck yeah!" and I'll put your character in mine. We love sharing each other's characters, and I think indie cameos are just something so fun to do. And so many people had so much joy finding like characters like Frogato or Slugcat in original Slime Sam. So we just kind of continued that trend both with Blackbird's Kraken and Sheeple sequel now. So for example, the most recent announcement we made, I think, was Azam from the Grand Legacy. Those are guys that we basically hung out with at every PAX this entire year because they've been at all of them too.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, and I almost nearly forgot that I should have mentioned that I am a producer on Slime Son as well. People don't realize that I am a contributor. With the now this is an update coming. It's coming out, right? Is this going to come out with?
That's going to be part of Sheeple sequel, yeah.
Okay, it's going to be part of Sheeple sequel. So it's you're going to be able to change the colors.
That's right.
Which is so cool.
Yeah, so that's a big change that we're adding as a setting in the visuals. The hue slider, basically allowing you to completely change all of the 5 colors that Slime Son has and create your own palette. And we even now added hex color numbers. So that means that you can share it online if you find a palette that you really like. And I think that'll just be really fun because
it's such a great idea.
Yeah, because
it's brilliant. It's so simple.
Yeah, exactly, and we're excited to bring it out there. I don't see why you would ever be tired of blue, but
personally, I'm really looking forward to the speed run where someone just sets all the colors just to red, and someone still executes it masterfully.
Well, I've already done that with the Virtual Boy.
That's right.
And it's freaking hard to play. I'm like, okay, this is really fun and really cool looking, but
the hell soundscape is what gets me every time we activate it.
We at least take solace in it is somewhat representative of the history of that console.
Yeah, I got a huge headache.
Yep.
No. Yeah.
We aim for authenticity.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be a great. See, here's the thing. I'm thinking, Virtual Boy, 3DS, Slime Son would be pretty sweet on 3DS too, with that stereoscopic 3D, especially with all those layers too. It's just too bad that that's just it's leaving us.
Yeah, maybe that's like the new for a limited run version is finally on the Virtual Boy, or the packed in Virtual Boy for you to play on.
I'll bust out my Virtual Boy for that.
See, I know. I think I heard that there's like a new Virtual Boy game. Like that, some people are still making them somehow.
Oh, I'm sure.
Somewhere.
Really? I know that happens with the Dreamcast, but I would be so happy if that happened with the Virtual Boy.
Well,
VR is finally coming into its own.
They announced a new Super Nintendo game, I believe. Someone's still making that, and I know they're releasing a Street Fighter
2 for $100.
Yeah, $100 cartridge.
Yeah,
like an actual official production.
Yeah, plug it into the SNES and it's good to go.
Oh wow!
And apparently, I remember there's some weird thing like they're making like 5,000 of them, and then like 500 of them are glow in the dark.
Yeah. Oh.
It's just so random and weird.
Well, I can't wait to play Slime Son on my original Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
I hope that's the next project that's gotten to cook.
Oh yeah, no, we have a list in the office of our porting project, so that's on the list. That's just after the Amazon Fire TV.
I'm sure we can optimize.
Well, speaking of the future, I mean, I know obviously you guys have DLC in the works, but do you already have something in the works maybe moving forward, or is it just sort of concentrating on, obviously you just released Slime Son in Japan, so I'm sure that was occupying a lot of time. Yeah. But is there something that you already got working, or maybe more in the brainstorming idea?
So until early spring, we're going to be busy with Slime Son quite a bit. As I mentioned, there's both content patches have to make their way to the Switch. The second one has to be finished entirely. There's the Xbox version, there's the PlayStation version. We are also working on some Slime Slam plushies. So that's going to be kind of awesome.
Oh, yes.
And a couple of other little surprises that we can't quite talk about with Slime Slam just yet. But there's another little thing that I figured I should tease on a Nintendo podcast like this one. We are going to be publishing a game on the Nintendo Switch, currently slated for spring 2018. But I'm not quite ready to announce the title just yet.
Are you sure?
I am sure, but keep an eye out for it. It's gonna be. We're really excited about it. It's an awesome game that didn't get enough attention on PC, and we're essentially working with the developer to add more content and balance some things out to make it the ultimate edition. And we're really excited to bring it to the Switch.
So, did you self-publish Slime Song?
So, Slime Song, we worked with Head Up Games.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so this is actually our very first game that we're publishing ever.
Oh my goodness, that's so
awesome.
exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you. It's gonna be awesome.
Now, thinking back to when you guys started this company, did you ever think you'd be publishing someone else's game?
We started thinking about it a year and a half ago or so, but didn't feel confident in doing it until we felt like we could provide enough. And we finally feel like we're at a state where at this point we can provide enough. We can help with development. We can help with marketing. We can give access to things that certain developers otherwise don't have the chance to. So yeah, now the time is right.
That is so exciting and cool. Now, to end this little spiel here, I was thinking of each of you giving us your 3 favorite games on Switch that you've been playing, or it doesn't have to necessarily be your favorite, like ranked or anything, but.
Okay, let me quickly mull it over. Breath of the Wild definitely in there. Has to be.
That shouldn't count.
That's true. That shouldn't count.
Yeah,
That's on everyone's list.
Yeah.
Then I'm a huge Monster Hunter nut, and we've been playing that in the office together, so that's probably on the list.
Monster Hunter.
Yeah, playing it in.
Yes, Double Cross.
Oh,
so
sweet.
We're playing it in. We don't speak any Japanese, by the way.
Yeah, Monster Hunter. You don't need to read text anyway.
No.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's not a complicated game at all to begin with.
We just developed like a complicated level of understanding of all the different kanji and symbols, just enough to figure out how to heal ourselves when we take like a tail swipe to the face.
Okay, Monster Hunter Double Cross. I'll take it. That's nice.
And then third will be a tie between Spectre of Torment or SteamWorld Dig 2.
Nice. Those are. Oh man, Spectre of Torment is. That is one of my highlights of all games. It is so good. It's so cool.
I just didn't expect that I would actually like it more than the original Shovel Knight campaign. I adore that gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that with each DLC I played, I found myself amazed that somehow they outdid themselves again. Because, like you said, the original was such a masterpiece to build upon that and trumpet. You know, it's like, wow.
It's so cool.
Yes. Now, Ben, I want to hear your 3.
Yeah, so was Breath of the Wild off the table? Is that a vetoed option because it's too self-evident?
Veto, because
okay.
It's one of those things where if it's not on there, then you're not allowed on the podcast. So
exactly, it's presumed already present.
And you can't see Mario Odyssey yet, even though we already know that one's going to be up there too.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I'd be quite so hubristic to like assume that's going to be amazing. I feel like I'd jinx it. I know it will be, but I don't want that on my head. Right. So I guess like in no particular order, like Monster Hunter is one, obviously, that we've been playing in the office a lot. And then Mario and Rabbids, I was like amazingly impressed by. Kind of like going back to when we were talking about Nintendo just kind of knocking out of the park ever since the Switch, and how it's both like a really good game, like solid like collaboration with third party, kind of a crazy combination of aesthetics and genre. Like I never was expecting that.
So good.
It just feels like it reminds me of the first time I saw Kingdom Hearts, where it's just like, no, this really feels like it should work, but somehow it just all does.
Yeah, it's not cool. I haven't got that game yet. Casey has been praising it, and I'm definitely gonna get it. It's just one of those things where there's so many games,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been reviewing so
Oh,
many,
yeah.
games on Nintendo Report. So it's just like, But I'm definitely gonna get it. Waiting for a good sale. That's what I like about physical games.
Yeah. And then
But-
I guess. Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
And yeah, for the third one, since Fabian stole one potential answer with SteamWorld Dig 2, which I just finished, that's really good. But probably even beating that out is Sonic Mania. I'm a weird interloper intruder that grew up with Sega, actually. So it is.
Get
I
off
came
the
to Nintendo a little.
Boo.
I withheld
It's truly,
the
I'm
urge.
in too deep, man.
Anytime Sonic is mentioned, I usually give out a hearty boo. I held back there. I was like, I'm not gonna.
I got you.
You know what?
I thought
I
this
even
was
bought
a
Sonic.
collaboration.
I even bought Sonic Mania, and I've never liked Sonic games. I was like, I'm just gonna
I'll
give it
give
a
it a
fair
chance.
shake, and I tried. I really did. I tried. I mean,
Well,
it looks beautiful. I love like the music and the sound effects are so great. But at the end of the day, it's Sonic.
Yeah.
Well,
See, and the weird thing is that somebody who loves Sonic would describe it exactly the same. And at the end, it's Sonic,
No, that is the point. That is the point. Jules said it best. It's like, this isn't going to convince anyone who doesn't like Sonic to like Sonic, but the people who do like Sonic, they will love Sonic Mania, which is cool to me. Like, I think everyone appreciates that.
Some like red jumpers, some like blue jumpers, and some make green ones.
Clothing or
Ooh, I like that.
platformers.
Yeah,
No, I agree with that assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool. No, I love it. Now, I just for conversational sake, I just want to recommend, maybe Casey and I can recommend a game to each of you.
All right.
Yeah.
And one of them is,
Probably gonna take my game.
I don't think so, Kingdom. Have you heard of Kingdom?
Of course.
Newlands?
We know the Raw Fury team quite well, actually.
Right. Now, have you played the game?
Not yet. It's been on my radar, though.
I'm telling you right now that it is absolute. Maybe I shouldn't tell you this because you know how you build stuff up for other people. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous game. It's an inspiring game, and it's amazing strategy. And I just would highly recommend it. Kingdom Newlands for sure, and it's awesome on Switch.
Awesome. Yeah, I just read that they're also doing another patch with a 6th island. So yeah, it's cool stuff.
Don't you tease me, Fabian. Now I know they're coming out. They're coming out with a sequel, like in this next year.
Straight up sequel too. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Casey.
Yeah, for my game, I would go Goner, which is also from Raw
Oh
Fury.
yeah.
Oh,
That
yeah.
game, oh my god, yeah. I'm not usually a huge roguelike fan, you know what I mean? It's just not generally a genre I gravitate towards, but my goodness, Goner it's so weird. And like, I love when you start getting the kills and combos up, like the world just the colors distort and change.
It's amazing.
Music becomes
It's so thematically good too. Aesthetically, the sound design.
It's perfection.
Ditto did an amazing job. We were booth neighbors at Gamescom, actually. We were both showcasing it like a year and a half ago. That game is dope as hell.
Yeah, that's
I literally
like the most. I was just going to agree with the sound design. That's like some of the most amazing sound design I've heard in a game for a long time. Just like how weird and unique and full personality it is.
Well,
for sure.
And it's so dynamic, like the way it works with how you're playing. And how it just gets crazier and crazier, and I love that. The game's aesthetic literally drew me in before I knew what the gameplay was. I was just like, I have to play this game because it looks so cool. Like, I don't even care about the game. I didn't even know it was a roguelike. I didn't know it was, nothing like that. So, but awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming on to the Talk Nintendo podcast.
A lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
We have praised your game a lot, and so
Thank
it's
you.
cool that you could come on so people could hear you. I mean, you're praising your game. You don't have to take our word for it. Take the guys that made it's word for it, right?
Exactly. Listen to that weird dude with his German accent and that Bostonian guy.
You mean Ben Mylar?
Ben Mylar.
Developer
Mylar.
extraordinaire.
Oh Mylar. I guess before we sign out here, I don't know if you guys want to tell the people where they can follow you on Twitter or YouTube or what have you.
So yeah, I'm the Twitter guy, super active. Follow me at Fabraz, Fabrazz, so 2 Z's because somebody took the first one.
Those dirty dogs.
Really? There's 2 Z's on it?
Yeah.
Even though there's on the official Fabraz name. I like it. Okay. You didn't go for Fabraz _32 or something?
Yeah, exactly.
The real Fabraz.
Yeah. Okay. And what about Ben?
I do indeed have a Twitter at Strange Bloops. I think I post or tweet maybe once every like half year. So
it's an event.
If you time it right, you might get lucky.
Wonderful.
It's more of like a social experiment, seeing how many followers I can cultivate without ever actually contributing to my online presence whatsoever.
Gotcha. Yeah.
How's it going?
Solidly. I think I somehow still manage to get followers like once every week or so.
Wow.
I assume it's mostly Fabian just making YouTube accounts just to sort of give me an ego boost.
That's awesome.
He's not denying it.
Yeah, it's not entirely wrong.
I'm pretty sure it's one way or the other with this kind of topic.
Yeah, but Fabraz is basically the account for all of our development stuff, and I post a ton of GIFs a day.
Yeah, I love them. They're great.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm honestly, a lot of things happened thanks to Twitter, and it's just kind of cool building up the kind of community, and it's super satisfying.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys. We really appreciate it, and we're going to take a quick little breather here before we get back into some more show.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, and we are back, and this time around we have the guys that made Party Golf here. Well, 2 of them. We have Ian Lewis.
Hello.
Yep. And then we also have Lindsay Wells, Dr. Lindsay Wells, right?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet. Dr. Lindsay Wells elect.
He's the real doctor. He is doctor. He probably didn't mention
You are
that.
Dr. Ian Lewis.
Yeah, I wouldn't have mentioned that. I don't bring that up in normal conversation.
Well, are you ashamed? What's your doctorate in?
So I did a doctorate in programming language design many years ago because I'm also quite ancient.
Gotcha.
That's awesome, man. I'd tell everyone that.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're not a doctor in art history like Dr. Zoidberg from Futurama.
No. Although I have been on a plane and they did come over the announcements and say, "Is there a doctor on the plane?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they don't mean me." And then
yeah, he's still,
they're like,
where's
no,
the computer?
No, yeah. They're like, no, we need someone to reprogram our computer. The plane's going down.
No, they didn't say that. They didn't say the plane's going down, but they said a computer doctor was the next announcement, and I was like, "Oh no, this can't really happen."
And then you woke up from the nightmare.
Yeah.
Then you woke up from this nightmare.
But then they said, "Who knows something about Mac?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm out."
Yeah, wiped your brow.
That's right. I assumed somebody in first class needed their computer fixed. That was my understanding.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
You're like, I'm not gonna do. I don't work for you.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
no,
not
you
on the
should
clock.
have done it, and then you should send him a bill. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
That's what the doctors do in America. So,
yeah. Anyway, speaking of America, Party Golf. Party Golf has come out. It is officially an indie, and it just came out this last week on my wife's birthday, October 19th. And we talked about it last week on the podcast if you listened before, but now we're really going to talk about it because we got the guys that made it. Now, how many is on your team that made this game initially?
There's about what, 6 of us
On the original team,
the
yes.
original team, and so now there's closer to 2 or 3, and we've grabbed some other students in as well for our next game. We will talk about that later.
Cool.
Yes. Now, I primarily handled the Nintendo port with some help from Lindsay near the end because, as we've already said, he was finishing his PhD, so he couldn't come and help me most of the time.
Yeah, but it's going to go the other way now with working on the Xbox version. He's going on holiday and just leaving me with the baby, so it's fine.
Well, good. Awesome. So yeah. Now, last time, I met Ian at PAX, and we played. I remember we played party golf there. I think it was on PS4, right? It was at least with PS4 controllers.
That's right. So PS4 being there and using PS4s on the floor.
I remember I was sharing a controller with my wife, and I was like, "Hey, this is funny. Hey, this is fun. You know, this is a party." And yeah, and we talked about it, and I was there, and I was thinking, you know what? And I had my Switch in my pocket, and I was like, this is like made for the Switch. I mean, just made for it. The Joy-Cons literally come off, and the way you play it, it's not like this super crazy game where you need quick precision with the buttons like a platformer or something. Like it works perfect. The controls work perfect for the actual gameplay of party golf. And I was like, you got to bring this to Switch, and you've brought it. It's here in like 5 months later.
Yeah, the funny thing was that on the way flying into PAX East, in the airport in Sydney, was when we got approval to come to the Switch.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
So we had found out just a few days before, but also being told that we had to go through a process before we could officially announce. So I was like, yes, that's a great idea. We would love to be
Yeah.
all of those words that you say when I was saying, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Now, with the process of bringing it to the Switch, was that something that, when the Switch was announced that you knew we want to get it on this, or was it something that, after it came out, you sort of saw that the reception was pretty well like, hey, it might make sense to bring it over?
As soon as the Switch was announced, we were as excited as everybody else about that platform for ourselves to play games on, but also knowing that our game would be a perfect fit for that. So we were contacting Nintendo repeatedly, trying to get on there as early as we possibly could.
And was that a difficult process to go through, or is it more so just sort of sending emails until they actually finally get back to you, or?
It was more the latter, and a part of that was because the person that we were in was our primary contact wasn't actually available for a fair bit of the time that we were actually contacting. So we eventually had to find ourselves another way back in, and then that original person eventually got back to us.
Cool.
So it was a difficult process where our connection to Nintendo wasn't there, and we didn't realize that. So, but I just kept trying because we knew we really wanted to be there. And once we did manage to get a dialogue back, they were super excited to have party golf on the system. So it was just a breakdown in communication to begin with.
Yeah. It's almost like it's the way it is on Switch. I mean, it's almost like a Nintendo-like idea that they would have wanted to promote with the Joy-Cons anyway, to get people to buy more Joy-Cons, but just that you could play multiplayer on your system anywhere, which I have at work, and it's awesome with my buddy. Now, I think we should discuss what the game is exactly for people who don't know. That way, continuing the conversation, they can understand exactly what's going on. So give us the elevator pitch of what this game is.
Elevator pitches, they're my favorite.
All right, I'll take this one.
Yeah,
we got 103 levels here.
So Party Golf is a really fast-paced golf game. It's 2D golf, but unlike real golf, everybody shoots at once. You don't take turns.
Unless you want to. Yes,
I'm going through. You've interrupted the elevator pitch. Lost my stride.
Hold on. I just want to say everything you say can be followed with "unless you want to."
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry I ruined it. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'll wind it all back. I'll say it all again. No, not really.
Back to the first floor.
Unlike real golf, you can also knock each other out of the way. Unlike real golf, first person in the hole wins. It doesn't matter how many shots you take, and you don't even have to wait for your ball to stop moving before you can shoot again. As long as you're moving slowly, you get another shot. If you shoot off the screen, you get sent back to the start and have to go again, which is a little bit like real golf if you hit it into a water trap or something like that. And as you already said, every single thing I said is our defaults.
Yes.
We can change every single option in the game. So if you want to play something that feels like normal golf, you can slow it down, you can take turns, you can make the least number of shots be the thing that matters. And that's just in the basic stuff. You can do other stuff like suddenly be playing as giant bananas.
Power-ups.
Oh, yeah, having power-ups. We've got like 10 power-ups. Rat King is that's Lindsay's baby. Lindsay came up with that idea.
Brilliant.
Rat Kings are a real thing in the real world.
Yes.
Yeah, they're terrifying.
Yeah.
We turned that into something far less terrifying.
Super cute when you get like the whale balls stuck together or something around. Like,
So just clarification. Rat King is when each of you, if you collide with another golf ball, you suddenly are together and you have to work together and you're stuck together and it's hilarious. And then
it doesn't sound like what normally happens when you become a Rat King.
But the best part is you're still out for yourself because whoever gets into the hole first out of your group will be given the high score still.
Right.
So you're independent but together and hindered.
One of our favorite ways to play that is to also throw in checkpoints. So you have to go through a number of points in the level before going while you're stuck together as a Rat King.
So you often have different goals going for different checkpoints, but you might be stuck together, and you're more likely to get stuck together because you're shooting in opposite directions.
Because one of our options again is that the checkpoints are in random order. They're not in a line on the way to the hole. You have to go near the hole and then back to the start, and then all over the place. And you can play those in our procedurally generated levels. So you can do it in really complicated ones like our cave levels, where the chances of you hitting each other are pretty much insured in the lifetime of trying to get through all those checkpoints.
Right.
Also not a saved game mode that people can just easily use through using our game mode screen. We just found that like the other week. Just realized, hey, that's really fun.
Yeah.
Just by browsing our own menu. So it'll make it into the full game later as a game mode later on. We'll patch it. But
yeah, I invented that one while we were in PAX at PAX West
Awesome.
about a month.
Yeah, I love that idea. It would be cool. I mean, this is just an idea. If you could if there was like a 3-digit number code or something like that you could post online for other people to play what they have concocted, or something like that, QR code, something like that.
We are most definitely looking into approaches for people to be able to share stuff that they've come up with. We've talked about doing codes or talked about actually doing that as an integrated feature in the game. Watch this space.
We have so many options that you're going to need more than 3 digits, though, right?
Yeah, no, I think oh my goodness, yes. And
so we did tests on our options and found that it's pretty close to the same number of combinations of our options as No Man's Sky promised independent individual planet.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
Yeah,
man,
but
it's just
a lot of those might feel a little bit the same.
Right.
Now, with the when you were first coming up with the idea for Party Golf, did you come up with sort of the core mechanics and then you started running wild with all these different, amplifiers, quote unquote, different modifications you could set to the gameplay? Or did you go in sort of with the idea like, we want to have a game that you can play any way you want, and, Party Golf sort of molded out of that idea?
I think it was more the first one, but I think the second part of wanting to have lots of options from the start was probably in your head at the start.
Yeah.
We took a game, we really loved the game Desert Golfing, which is an Android and mobile game that you can play, which is just a single player experience. And then we also loved Towerfall and all these local multiplayer games, and we just wanted to mash those two together.
Yes, Towerfall in particular was an influence for the options screen, because Towerfall has a huge number of multiplayer options when you play it. Just like us, they've got a feature which I think a lot of people never even find, where you can even assign their options to individual players. So you can create a tower fall game where one particular person starts with no arrows. Or what Lindsay did to me, I went to the toilet when we were playing the game with my group of friends, and I came back. And every time I failed to catch an arrow, or if I pressed the button for catch an arrow, and I didn't catch an arrow in that process, I would die. But they didn't tell me that they did that to me.
Just thought he
so I just kept dying and not understanding why. So anyway, we this concept, and in party golf, you can make one person a giant banana and everybody else normal golf balls. You can turn the gravity, you can turn the bounciness up on one player so they bounce around the screen. It takes them much longer to take another shot. All sorts of options you can set like that.
Well,
just one.
Yeah, and you can set up these one of my favorite things is fruit salad, where everyone has different shaped fruit and anything. I think there's a cat. You're literally the shape of a cat. But the funny thing is there's these different sizes where literally one person will be the size of a watermelon and the other will be the size of a grape. And the watermelon will land in the hole and literally block the rest. No one else can land in the hole then. And so they can't sink it. And it's just like, that's just how this game is, It's wacky. It's a wacky of all
battle as much as you can to the watermelon. Like, just to get close to the hole, so when the time runs out, that you get second.
So we're sort of bouncing around on top.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Was there a competition when coming up with different game modes to who could come up with the quirkiest and strangest game mode between you guys?
It was quite interesting. A lot of the really wacky end of stuff came out of us playing this with people when we were playtesting. We took the game to university students. We took the game to open events where lots of young kids played, and all of them created a set of wacky game modes that we were just standing there, with the clipboard, wearing a white coat, writing down what they were doing. And in particular, we have in particular, we have a game mode called Bananarama, and every single group of people we tested it with created that game mode, whether they were 6 years old or whether or not they were.
Yeah, that was before the presets. So people were making their own presets, and they would always just resort back to giant balls, giant banana mode.
This is popular, we decided. So a lot of when we play the game, we play the highly technical things that you can play. We play a lot of slow motion, lots of spider ball, where you've got 3 power-ups where you can either choose to stick to the wall, steer yourself through the air a little bit, after touch like old school soccer games, or have a turbo boost. And so it's really quite technical. You're using all the buttons on the controller to do all this stuff, and you're using the power-ups in the right order. Other people love the full wackiness of, as you said, of fruit salad, or something where every ball, or where lots of options are changed at random, or the voting mode where you can change between each match or each round. Something has to change in between each one, and everyone gets to vote on how that happens.
Yeah, I love it. I love the and it's kind of cool because you can. The thing about this is, like you're saying now, it's not just the variables of the game that you can change, but you can literally change the goal of. You can change what the game is, and you have tons of these different modes in the game. Like, just for instance, there's the flappy golf.
That was the one you were going to say.
Yeah, it's so fun. It just turns into this. Now you have the scrolling level. It's really long, full of mines in the air, and you're tapping it, and it just kind of plays like Flappy Bird, kind of. In that sense.
Yep.
And you're just trying to get to the hole, and it just usually ends up with no one getting to the hole, but because they get killed by mines. But I just love it that it. And then, like, there's one that plays like Smash Bros. The sumo, where you're just trying to knock balls off of the arena, and
there anymore. It's not even golf.
Yeah, you literally
I know.
In that one. There is no hole.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, and so I feel like you have the slogan, "Less golf, more party," right?
Yeah.
And that really nails
Couldn't be any more perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
Sorry, when we first made the game, it was in a game jam, just a private game jam for 48 hours. And so we had a working prototype with the basic feel of the game was down and quite a lot of options, but nothing like the 300 we have now. But at the end of that game jam, we'd scheduled our party. And so with just our friends, and they were all coming over to play the game that we'd worked on for 48 hours. So we really built this for the experience of people being able to get together and play a game.
And the pressure was on, because if we'd done a terrible job, they'd just been sitting there going, what is this?
I couldn't watch people play it for the first few hours. I had to go stand outside.
It was really quite buggy.
It was.
It was still fun enough that people were willing to look past the bugs and do all the things to restart it every round, because they still wanted to play the fun game.
So some people played the game after we'd only worked on it for 48 hours, for 2 or 3 hours that first night. And we were like, we're onto something here.
Yeah, and I just got to bring it back to the Switch. It's so perfect on Switch. It doesn't need internet, so it's not reliant. So you literally can play it. You know what you gotta get one of those holders for the backs of car seats, like on the initial thing.
Oh yeah.
So you can hold it for the kids to play. You know, in the back of the car. I mean, it just.
We managed to play it in a rental car that we had that had an HDMI port. So we were driving into Miami in the rain, playing party golf in the back of this minivan.
That's wonderful. See, and now that's a real party right there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
now how was working? Working with the Switch, as far as porting it over, because like you said, for PS4, right, is what it was initially developed for?
That's right. So we did PS4 first, and then did the Steam version after that. But for this, and we use the engine, the Unity engine. So a lot of the heavy lifting in trying to get it working on Switch is done by the fantastic Unity team. But there's always a fair bit of work to do in terms of trying to get controller support to work, trying to handle user sign-in, things like that, and trying to just make sure and test how that everything does work on the new platform. And with a game like ours, with the number of options we've got and the number of ways that you can combine them together, it's practically endless. It takes a bit of time to go through and make sure that you've checked everything out as best you can.
I feel like I'm gonna find this one certain combination where my Switch is just gonna explode. It's just, or my TV or something. I'm gonna hit this it's gonna be a kill switch or something. But yeah, I know you can't check for it all. I don't think you literally couldn't. I mean, you don't. There's not enough time.
Yeah. Any number of lifetimes, just about.
Yeah, there's the number of actual technical combinations is somewhere above 10 to the power of 100 combinations, which is that's technically a Googleplex, right?
Yeah, that would be some serious QA time.
Yeah.
Cool. So now let's talk future. I mean, so far, how have you enjoyed your experience on Switch? Has it been exciting? Is it exciting? Blah, 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 Yeah,
absolutely. With the response to us even announcing that we were coming to Switch has been amazing. We didn't do much in the way of an official announcement. I was just, as a programmer, super excited to get my first program running on the Switch. So it was a picture of our game, of our studio logo. So it was the equivalent of a Hello World program for those of you that have done any programming, just a single picture on the screen. And I tweeted a picture of that, and the response we got from that was huge. And so since we actually got to the point of releasing, the response from the community and from the press has been fantastic. We're getting a lot of great reviews out of the game. People are playing it and telling us how much fun they're having. It's been fantastic. It's been just so good. Such a great community.
It is.
And a lot of national reviews as well, which we didn't get on the original releases. Lots of French and Italian places talking about how much they love it, and Germany. We're big in Germany, apparently.
And a lot more press out of the US as well. We struggled with that on our previous version, so it's fantastic to be talking to you guys.
Well, I was actually going to say, I feel like Party Golf is the perfect game to just pick up and play. And as you have been saying, you're doing the PAXs and all the different shows. I mean, generally, it just seems like a perfect fit to just, like you said, hey, come over, try our game, and it's easy to fall in love with it. So have you seen, I guess, just from PAXs, just do you think that's a huge source of where the buzz is coming from, or came from, I should say?
We think so. It's hard when you're as small as us to accurately trace where the interest is coming from. We do know that every single time we've shown the game at a PAX or a similar event, we are just busy the entire time. We get lines waiting at our booth the whole time we're there for the 3 or 4 days that a PAX runs, which is absolutely fantastic. But you do lose your voice by the end of that. You need some people to help out. But we know that when people get to play our game, that they really, really like it. We have, really close to 100% strike rate with people playing the game and going, that was fun. We get what you're trying to do with this game.
We do record how quickly it takes for people to start shouting, playing the game. Seconds to shouting, and it's like less.
That's our favorite metric. When we get a group of friends in, we get them to play the game. And within a minute, almost without fail, you get someone with their arms in the air going, yeah!
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
That's the best stat I've ever heard.
We want to make an official industry-wide measurement of game quality. None of these are out of 10 scores anymore. We want seconds to shouting metrics.
Now you got to make that video at PAX Australia. You got to make that video of the reactions of them playing. So
that's a great.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about. We have a lot of Australian listeners as well. And I guess if anyone, I feel like I don't know if we mentioned you guys are Australian. And you're in Australia, and you can't tell by the accents. And
we're from Tasmania, the little island off the bottom of Australia too. So we're an entire state of Australia. If you're not familiar with the way our country's broken down, we're much smaller than some of the other enormous states. We have less than 1 million people in our state. So we were the first console game to come out of our state, with the first Switch game to come out of the state as well. So we're really excited to be kind of spearheading the games development industry down there.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, the only thing I know about Tasmania, is the Tasmanian devil.
Yeah. They don't spin around in a circle. Well, they do a little bit, but not the same way as the cartoons.
Do they make the same noise?
No, weird noise. And they are really aggressive.
Yeah.
Not towards people. They're aggressive towards each other more than anything else.
Fighting, yeah.
Oh.
So even their mating involves biting each other. So they'll always have like missing patches of fur and stuff.
Lots of
Oh my goodness, that's
things I wouldn't think I'd learn on a Nintendo focused podcast.
Yeah, that's great. That's yeah. I just wanted to say, for you're gonna be at PAX Australia, like the day after this. You say Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we bump into PAX tomorrow, and then the next day we're there.
Are you gonna be showcasing it on Switch, or are you gonna kind of keep up your same, PS4 setup?
We're going to be doing both. We're going to be PS4 playing on the fixed system, and then we're going to have people walking around showing that in handheld mode. We did that at PAX West, and we hadn't quite made our way through getting ready for full release yet, but we had a working copy that we were showing people at PAX West, and people were so excited to see it.
Awesome. That's fun.
We sold a bunch of PS4 copies, Steam copies of the game while we were there because people saw it on the Switch.
Yeah. And cool thing for anyone else wanting to go visit them, they are going to be having a gigantic 100-gallon giant margarita with a shared straw for everyone to take a sip of as they pass by.
That's the dream.
Occupational Health and Safety would like to have a word with you about this shared straw.
I think the seconds to shouting become much.
No, Lindsay's going to be there with the alcohol wipes to wipe it off every time. It'll be fine. Trust me. Plus,
Our company headquarters needs to have a gigantic fountain that's shaped like a gigantic margarita glass that's just spewing margarita.
So you think chocolate fountain or something straight out Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. This is what Lindsay wants.
People just come in and they're just like, margarita.
Floating around on boats, drinking straight over the side. That's what he wants.
I know why. I know why you named your place Giant Margarita, because you want people to send you giant margaritas. I figured it all out.
Absolutely. We want to get to the point where we're standing in a bar and people go, oh, they're those giant margarita people, and they just send one over. And we do that. That really classy, hold up our glass and just give them a wink. Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome.
Now,
We
I
have
actually had.
machine.
Yeah,
sorry.
we have a company margarita machine
Nice.
that we break out for launches or when we're getting us all together.
I only would assume so.
Yeah.
Now, when with PAX East, I actually had a question. Now, they had like a whole booth or whole area where they had a lot of Australian devs coming and showing off games. Is
Yeah.
that something that you had to go reach out to get a part of, or is that something that they was an initiative that like they wanted to bring you guys over? How did something like that work?
Yeah, so for PAX East, that was the Surprise Attack group, who are an Australian publisher who look at getting a bunch of take on indie companies and help them market their games. We're not signed with them, but they give out they get a bunch of Australian independents together to go to those events to help share costs and help do group promotions on those things, because they are great at making their way through that kind of minefield that perhaps we're not as good at as what they are. So that Surprise Attack and League of Geeks works with them as well. So Surprise Attack was just in a talk. They were involved with Screen Cheat is the game I can think of at the moment.
I'm trying to think of the other ones.
Orwell, they're promoting.
Vertiginous Golf.
Yeah, different golf game.
Yep.
And League of Geeks is
Mellow.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so it's great that they do that. In PAX, when we were recently over at PAX West, we weren't on their booth, but we took 20 university students with us who worked on their booths as volunteers for the whole time. So we took 22 students from Tasmania over to Seattle just a month and a half ago to give them an experience of what it's actually like to be out there in the big wide world of game development. And so we took them to PAX Dev, PAX West, and then down to Silicon Valley for a few tours down there.
That's incredible.
Was that a blast?
Yeah, it really was. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, taking that many people away, and lots of them had never been out of the country before. But it went fantastically. Their energy was great. A lot of them came back so amazingly inspired to try and do the kinds of stuff that they'd actually seen other people doing. And as I said, part of what we're trying to do is be a beacon for people in Tasmania to realise they can do this stuff anywhere. We've signed up to make games from that tiny little state, which is way away from the centres of where games are normally made. But we've signed up with Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft to get our game out there.
So,
awesome.
So you're saying that if I went to Tasmania and I just said, take me like to my Siri, I said, take me to where people make games, like you're the only option. And
We're not the only one.
We're not the only option. There are other people there that are starting to make games as well, or have been making games for some time.
Yeah, there's a company called Secret Lab who do a lot of contract work, so you don't often see their name on the games that they make, but they've made a lot of really cool games, worked on those.
They've recently announced that they're doing the iOS port of
Night in the Woods.
I forgot the name of the game all of a sudden.
I think I got it right.
Yeah, you did.
Yep. Which is pretty exciting for them.
Yeah, so they're primarily an iOS developer and do a lot of stuff as contract work, and they write a lot of books as well. So they've got lots and lots of stuff out there about game development. And we've got some other companies that are keeping all of their stuff under wraps. They're not ready to launch yet. They won't even show us. That's terrible, right?
That is terrible. Yeah. Now, this is the Talk Nintendo podcast, so we like to talk Nintendo, and I guess I'm wondering, are you guys Nintendo fans? Do you guys play Nintendo products? Are you, where are you in that? Are you gamers?
Yes, we love Nintendo.
Yes, we are gamers.
Well, I mean, sometimes you do so much, you work so much, and so.
Yeah, Lindsay hasn't been playing much for this year in particular, as he submitted his PhD 2 weeks ago. his PlayStation was in a bag
For 2 months.
I was gonna say, what a bad year to pick off of gaming with all these incredible games coming out.
Yeah.
I know. I keep telling him about them all. I kept telling him how I was playing Zelda as I was walking to work every day. I'd like show him the things that I've been doing. It's just utterly not fair to him. I bought a Switch super early, primarily to play Zelda. I've been playing games since I was little. Atari 2600 was my first system, and I've had pretty much every single console that's come out since then.
That's awesome.
Every single console?
Let me get this right. No, since a certain point, because I went the Commodore way to begin with. So I had a Commodore 64 and then a Commodore Amiga. And then after that, I've had every PlayStation, every Xbox. I only used the Nintendo 64, always borrowing that from a friend of mine, but I've had a GameCube and a nice colorful GameCube as well that I used to take everywhere. And we used to play on projectors at university. We used to rent out play Super Monkey Ball. And we loved Super Monkey Ball to death. Super Monkey Ball.
That's such a good game.
We used to play the mini golf that did not inspire party golf, but I have a history of playing way too much mini golf on Nintendo platforms in the past.
No Virtual Boy?
No.
That one on the Switch.
I have not played that yet.
No.
I'm going away at the end of this year for 6 weeks, so I've actually forced myself to not play any games on the Switch recently so that I'll have them while I'm away. Mario comes out this week, and I'm going to have to wait like a month until I start that.
Oh,
you're a monster.
No. That's.
I know. I'm going to be a paragon of self-control.
That's the ultimate test right there. Yeah. No,
I'll let you know.
Now, as far as you two, did you guys, obviously working together with Party Golf and stuff, have you, where did you guys meet? Was this something that just being game devs in, a spot where it's not necessarily a hotbed thing, or have you known each other forever?
Let me tell you a story. We met through the University of Tasmania, and so I was his student 7 years ago doing the undergraduate, and he was just a lecturer. I was just a student who was a lecturer.
You said that the right way. That is the student view of the way stuff works.
And so Ian had just started working on the games degree. So it was the first year that the games degree had been run, and I was one of the first students through it. And so there was a bit of backwards and forwards between the students on how the unit can be improved, and a lot of hanging out and playing games because we like playing games together. So then that turned into doing research through honours/masters, and then a PhD. And so we've just been stuck through university together, sort of thing. But he realised that I must have been a good student or something, and so decided to make games with me.
Yeah, we've made one game together before Party Golf, and that was a mobile game. And that was me.
Save the teenies, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct. I got Lindsay and some other students to sit down and come up with some game ideas together, and with the whole purpose of just trying to finish making a game, not just build a prototype, actually take a game fully out to release. And that's what we did.
Because a lot of indies a lot of small teams never get to release. They end up just mucking around with their idea and trying to make it perfect. They don't scope it. They try and make an MMO straight up. And we learned from those mistakes and decided not to do that.
Yeah.
Good.
I was the only one who could be bothered sticking around though because he's so smelly.
Yeah, it was 6 of us. 2 of us made it to the end, and that's why Lindsay's still working on games now, because finishing something is hard, and a lot of people don't have the stomach for it, but we do.
Awesome. Now, you alluded before to what might be in the future for you guys. Is that something we could talk about, or maybe, I don't know if you have plans to show some stuff off at PAX?
You say you're bringing it to Xbox One, but, that's probably the next thing. But do you have any more plans in the Party Golf universe? Party Golf 64.
Like that he says the universe.
Because that's exactly what we're going with. We have enjoyed the response to this idea of the way Party Golf works, and people getting the whole fast-paced, simple gameplay to begin with, but then all of those options in there to change it to be whatever you want. So we want to continue with that style of idea. So we're bringing out a game called Party Crashes, which is a fast-paced, last car standing racing game. So if you've played the old Micro Machines games or Wrecked or Mashed, this is the style of racing that we're going for, which is very different than a lot of other racing games.
So there's weapons and that sort of stuff, but it's also not Mario Kart or anything like
We realise that we don't want to try and compete in the same area as the preamble.
However, there's enough options and customization that there is effectively a Mario Kart mode in there. There's a wrecked mode. There's a arena battle mode instead. Time trials.
We've got camera options so you can play like the old Super Sprint games. There'll be camera modes so you can play stuff like the old Supercars games or Nitro or Indy 500.
Goodness.
All that stuff's going to be in there because I'm a fan of every single one of those games I just mentioned.
Now,
those modes are further customized by having different vehicle types and power-ups and that sort of stuff in the same way the party golf
And we already have a banana car.
Of course.
I was going to ask, is there a bricular mode?
There's going to be. There was, and then it got removed. I don't know where the brick car went.
See, but you got to make the wheels. The wheels are bricks.
Yeah, nice.
And so they just barely move.
So because we're doing that on early access, we're launching it early with a heap of features, but we're going to have a lot of feedback through our community, through our Discord, of ideas just like that, and we're going to be throwing them into the game, testing them out.
I want to be in that meeting.
Yeah,
everyone's allowed to be in that meeting because what we learnt from going through Party Golf is that an early access kind of approach to these games is going to be fantastic for us because people suggesting things to us, there's no idea too stupid that we won't have a bit of a try of and see if we can get it in there. So getting the whole community to help us make what they want is really to work out where we should invest our time is really what we're looking for there. And we're going to target a simultaneous launch on the consoles once we've gone through the early access.
About a year later or so, roughly.
Yeah.
That is exciting. What a great concept. What a great idea. And it makes sense.
It sounds brilliant. You said it's in or will be releasing in Steam Early Access soon. Is there sort of a time frame that we might be able to see it with Switch, or is it so far down the road that, you know?
We don't have a date to announce at this point for when that exactly will be. We'll look at trying to, as we go through the process of working on an early access, we want to make sure that it's going to be up and running on the consoles as we go through that process. So we might be able to, in the future, be able to share evidence that we're actually succeeding in doing that.
And again, what's the name of the game? Party Crashers?
Party Crashes.
Okay, because I'm trying to look it up, and there's other games or something.
It'll come up. Oh, I'm watching a trailer.
Okay.
PartyCrashersGame.com is certainly live, but the Steam page isn't live just yet. Later today, I believe.
Yeah,
if we're lucky.
Yeah. So we're a little bit behind on where we wanted to have that up. We would like to have been able to point you to a Steam page immediately, but yes, there is. PartyCrashesGame.com is up.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's awesome.
He madly types in a web address to make sure that is in fact true.
Yeah.
Is this going to? Are you guys going to be showing this off at PAX Australia this weekend?
Yeah,
we are. So on our booth, we'll have Party Golf going, as I said, on PS4 and on Switch, and then we'll be showing Party Crashes running on a PC.
I love how you have the theme, of Giant Margarita as party, but you need to ironically make a game called like Graveyard Sleepers or something like that, or something that is just so depressing that
even out all of the joy.
Yeah, just because you can't party 24/7.
Want to bet?
Yeah. To go for a throwback mention here, Slurm McKenzie would disagree with you.
Yeah.
Sorry, if you have a reference, if you remember that. He was the original party worm. He partied 24/7, 365 days a year.
Well, see, and your goal is to create software that can enable you to do that 24/7 without repeating the same thing twice.
That's right.
So with procedurally generated levels, you could just keep on playing and playing and playing until you found the same level, and you would probably die first.
Yeah, there's going to be at least over 4 billion levels, and that's before I start factoring in all of the other different ways that could be changed. We've already got procedurally generated tracks in an early stage in party crashes as well. So we're going to have that level of flexibility in there, plus all of the hundreds of options that we throw in there so that you can do stuff and make up whatever you want.
Yes,
Death by Giant Margarita. I like it.
Yes, one of my favorite party games is Game and Wario on the Wii U. And one of my favorite things about it is you can take pictures of your faces and then use them as your icons, you know? And
Yes.
man, would that be funny on Party Golf or Party, like if you had the ability to take, that's why I wish the Switch had a camera, is for party games. Everything else doesn't really make a difference, but
Yeah, we
really
talked
funny.
about that feature, but on other platforms, the ubiquitousness of the camera isn't there, and unfortunately on Switch,
Right.
it wasn't any easy way to get that done. Because I remember that from not that game, but from Burnout Paradise Party Mode. Had to pull the funny faces before starting your game.
It's so great. So yeah, I love it. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Now, Lindsay, do you have a Switch then, or no?
I don't have one yet. I'm
Okay.
looking forward to getting one soon and playing lots of games on there though.
Well,
I find myself using Ian's Switch and playing Party Golf
Yeah.
just all the time. I just get up and grab it. It's so much
We
fun.
were working yesterday, and I left the room for a minute and came back, and Lindsay had stopped working and was playing Party Golf on the Switch.
It was going to take you about half an hour to fix what you'd broken. Like I had already worked out how long it would take to fix it. Like perfect time to pick up Party Golf for half an hour.
research. Well, I was thinking it'd be fun to say we can do for Ian your 3 favorite Switch games, and then maybe Lindsay your 3 most anticipated games to play on Switch.
Yeah, sure.
So for me, I love the originality of Snipper Clips.
Yes.
Yep,
When I
very good
saw
one.
someone I know had a Switch in the first week and showed me that game, and I went, I'm going to go and buy this system now, because I already knew I was going to get it to play Zelda, which I'm going to throw in there as one of my top 3 here. I'm not putting these in order, by the way, and don't make me do that. It would take me way too
Snipper Clips
No,
over
that's fine.
Breath of the Wild.
And for number 3, that's tricky. We've got to choose between some things now.
Well, I mean, you don't have to, like, it's not ranked. You can just
That's all right. I'm going to say, and this might sound like a plug for like a fellow Australian game dev.
Party Golf.
Yeah, Party Golf.
I was allowed to say Party Golf, but I was going to say Party Pals, which happened to launch on the same day as us.
Party Pals, yeah.
Yeah. So we've met that team since we've been over here, but I also played their game. Like I bought it and played that game earlier this week, and it's just that awesome co-op fun, very reminiscent of Ibn Ob, which they said was one of their influences. And so I'm super excited to play that while I'm on my holiday with my partner, because I'm looking for co-op games on the Switch that I'll be able to play on the road. So if you can recommend some to me right now, that would also be awesome. I want to hear your top 3 co-op games. Oh, sorry.
I will. But Lindsay, tell me your 3.
Yeah, I'm excited for. First off, I'd love to play Golf Story. Another golf game, but
And another Australian dev.
they are Australian, aren't they? Yeah.
That's with you in golf. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
you get
Hey, we were early on this. We came up with Party Golf 2 years ago originally, the original concept. Everyone's following us as far as we're concerned. We showed them that golf is cool.
That's
Golf
right.
Story, like it's got a really cute aesthetic to it and a really nice little quest line to it. It reminds me graphically of a game called To the Moon, which I think was just a Steam game, but it was just really nice pixel art with a really sweet story. This looks to be the same sort of thing. I'm not sure. I want to play Mario Kart for sure. I'm excited for that. I really like the idea of the multiple switches, so local.
Mario Kart.
Same screen, Mario Kart. Yeah.
So good. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is amazing.
Yeah,
it truly is. Like, I can't get over it enough. So, yeah.
And no promises, but we would really love to try that kind. So all I can say is try that kind of style in party golf, of having people in the same room but with different screens. Be showing the same thing on screen, likely, but just to really facilitate the local multiplayer, because we don't have that yet. I'd love to have that in party golf. Get on that in. Supposed to work on it the other day, but yeah. And I don't have a third because I don't know enough about what games are on there. What do you recommend in terms of local co-op games? That's what I want to play.
Okay. Well, I'll give a couple, and maybe Kaysen can give a couple if he wants.
Yeah, he's more of the local co-op man. But I jump out in front of you. Jackbox is always and they've got now on the Switch, they have Jackbox 1 through 4. The fourth was just a couple weeks ago was released, and
I thought it was Same Day as Us, or is that something else?
I'm not sure.
I thought they were the Jackbox 4 launched, or a pack. There was an extra pack.
It might have been
different. It might have been around the same, just a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that's actually Perry introduced me to that game, and super fun, easy for like literally anyone to jump in, because it's just a bunch of sort of mini games that you end up using your cell phone. Like on the Switch will generate a room. Then on your phone, you just go to a website, punch in the code that they gave you on the TV, and then you're in, and that sort of acts as your controller. So for games where like charades or, Pictionary, kind of similar to that in that vein. So definitely a really good co-op game.
Those guys are great. I've played You Don't Know Jack for, I don't know, well over a decade now.
20 years. Oh, yeah.
Like having extra people in the audience being able to play. And one feature that we've got in Party Golf that we didn't mention, because it's not on the Switch version at launch, is Twitch integration, where people who are watching the game can type in commands and actually modify the game as they're watching it, as long as the person who's playing is connected up their Twitch channel.
We're looking to bring that to the Switch later on this year.
Yeah, so you might be flying through the sky as just regular ball, and a person watching would type in, like, make them bananas, and it'll go, and you'll turn into bananas mid-round and not be able to fit in the hole.
Yeah.
That's one example. Millions.
Make them the Rat King.
Yeah. That sounds incredible. That would be so good for like just a streaming experience to get everyone involved. That sounds really cool.
Yes.
So coming soon.
Very cool. Cool. For co-op games, now I think one of the best co-op games on Switch, it just kind of came out. It's called Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
I'm not really 100% sure what the gameplay actually is.
Yeah, that's Australian as well, isn't it? It's this is getting
Is that all we do? Is that all we do?
It's mentioned a lot. It was mentioned a lot last year at the conferences, GCAP and stuff. Didn't it win the prize? The awards night that we're going to, the one that was last year. I don't know much. We don't know much about it.
Well, can I explain it to you in 10
Sure,
seconds? Yeah. Okay, it's basically like imagine like playing like a twin stick shooter, right? Like where you're going through levels and you're controlling it. It's not scrolling, but you can just kind of go through levels. And then, but you're in a huge ship, and instead of just controlling the ship, you control a little character and like a little platformer. And you're jumping around the ship, going to different guns to shoot things on all the sides of the ship. So there's like 4 different guns. And then someone can man the shield, someone can man the actual ship to move it, and then other people can manage the guns. And so it's a very cooperative experience. It's just a lot, and then you can unlock new ships and go through all these procedurally generated worlds, and you're saving these poor animals. They're rabbits. You're saving the rabbits from these planets. But it's super fun. Great co-op game, and works great handheld too. So
awesome. To bring this back for a second, I think what you described reminds me a lot of 100-foot
robot golf. 100-foot robot golf.
Is that the one where you play co-op?
There's another VR game, right?
It was VR, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so not that one. There's another golf game.
Golf. No.
Tiger Woods PGA Tour.
Yeah.
XLS.
Well, I don't
Do you
even
guys-
think it's Tiger Woods anymore.
Do you guys go golfing?
I have played a single 9 holes of golf in my life.
It was terrible.
No, it was fantastic. It was really good.
We played Frolf instead. Frisbee golf.
Frolf.
Yeah,
Way better.
nothing wrong with
Hey,
that.
they have frisbee golf in Golf Story actually.
Oh,
do
yes,
they?
they do. They do. Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Golf Story definitely a really quirky, fun game. I guess real quick, my last multiplayer suggestion would also be if you want more of like a traditional racer, Fast RMX. Sort of gives off shades of F-Zero, but it's got a really cool like mechanic where like you pretty much like you switch the color of your exhausts, and that like and there's boost pads on the racetrack, so you got to sort of coordinate. And if you have the wrong boost, it actually like slows you down super hard. And really gorgeous game and a lot of fun.
It's incredible. It was a launch game on Switch. I remember playing that game on the way to PAX while the plane was going off of the ground. You know, and because the game is so fast, I was like, this is going to be the ultimate experience of playing fast while lifting off and landing in an airplane. And I gotta say, that's the way to play it. So it's kind of expensive to play if you want the full.
Pretty niche playtime you've got there.
Yeah, you know, it's about 2 minutes every year, but
Yeah.
it's fine.
Maybe there's some billionaires out there that can just get their people with their private jets to just accelerate at the right times for them.
A true 4D experience.
Yes. But I mean, if you're looking for any sort of co-op multiplayer stuff, Switch, I mean, obviously it's like I've been trying to say, it's set up. You can literally do it anywhere, you know, and they're starting to come out with those arcade. My other game I'd recommend is like the arcade Mario Bros that they just came out with.
Mhm.
The original Mario Bros arcade is on there, and it is so much fun co-op. You know, and it looks gorgeous, and yeah, that's one I'd recommend too. But there's so
I
many.
didn't launch that. I missed that. That's great.
Oh, it's
I
fantastic.
remember that from the arcades.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on our podcast and talking about Party Golf. It's a great game. I'm so glad you made it so quickly in the Switch hype, you know, which is going to be it's going to keep the hype train is going to keep chugging for a long time.
Fantastic. It's been awesome to see how well the Switch has been going, and we're super glad to be on there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Before you go, if you got anything, you know, where can the people find you on Twitter or YouTube, or, you know, best way to follow you guys and, you know, what you're going to be doing moving forward?
Yep. On Twitter, we're at Giant Margarita. And personally, I'm at _Giant Ian.
And I'm at _Giant Lindsay.
Hey,
That's
nice.
awesome.
We changed that to like not so giant. It's
He's pretty. It's a bit of a misnomer when it comes to him.
true.
And we do have a Giant Margarita Discord. I don't know what.
How do people get to those things?
I don't know.
We're not in
We're
charge
brand
of it.
new to Discord.
Yeah.
We don't know what's happening.
Yeah, you know what? We for Nintendo World Report, we just I actually was sort of spearheaded doing the Discord thing, and I'd never used it. So now I sort of have an idea. I think there's a way if you go on like top, it has some sort of
It might be
some
just be
room
called
number.
Discord or something. Like if we have a workspace name, it would be just Giant Margarita with no spaces, I assume.
I recommend everybody go on the internet and just search for the phrase
Yep.
Giant Margarita. A lot of them will be pictures of big cold drinks, but some of them will be us.
Some will be Photoshop pictures of you inside of a giant margarita.
Playing party golf.
Yeah. You got to do that. You know, that's just has to happen. All right. Well, thank you guys again. Good luck at PAX.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for talking to us, guys. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. And then, I mean, are you guys going to come back to PAX East next year?
We don't know exactly what we're doing next year at this point. We're all a little exhausted having gone through the launch, so we haven't worked out how many more times we're going to travel next year.
Right.
But we'd love to. We had such a good time in Boston, such a good time in Seattle.
Heck
We
yeah.
never made it down to PAX South, but I think that's a little bit too soon for us. So in the year, so we might have to put that one off again for another year. But I've just recently started collecting all the PAX hoodies, because they're different colors in every different place. So I'm only gonna have. I know you got to collect them all. I'm not into the penny arcade stuff. I'm into the hoodies.
Nice. Yeah, I need some hoodies too. I didn't even realize that was a thing.
Well, hopefully we see you there next year, and if not, we'll definitely be keeping in touch and looking forward to Party Crashers.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right. See you later.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Keep playing.
Well, Casey, I feel like that was a lot of Nindy goodness, wouldn't you say so?
I sure would, and it's always fun talking to developers, but I just love hearing the behind the scenes stuff and sort of how the ideas for these games sort of come to fruition. So I hope the listeners find it as enjoyable as we do.
Yeah, I think it was so cool how everything came to be on Slimeson, and how like they're the first. Giant Margarita is the first Tasmanian console game.
That's incredible.
With Party Golf. It's
That's
awesome. So yeah, really cool. Thank you, Ben and Fabian and Ian and Lindsay, so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we couldn't. Like I said, thank you so much. Anytime they want to come back, we'd be more than happy to have them. And great stuff.
Woo-wee. So, but that's going to do it for this podcast.
Now, I think we have a little bit of news, news of what we're going to be doing. Obviously, Mario comes out either the night you're listening to this, if you listen to day one, or it's already out on store shelves. So that's going to be the majority of the talk. Perry and I will be picking the game up and playing loads and loads of it over the weekend, but what we're going to do is have a little, probably 20 to 30 minute discussion, of our early impressions of the game, and we're going to pop it up over on the old YouTube, and I believe we're probably going to throw it up on the podcast feed as well for you guys to listen. Should be pretty good stuff. Obviously, it'll probably be filled with spoilers, so...
By the way...
Well, no, I guess... Not really. No, we're going to aim to not be spoilery.
Yeah, it won't be spoilery. We'll talk about some stuff. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the first couple hours of the game, so it's not going to be anything.
I'm just going to say, if people are listening to this on the day that Mario comes out, I love you. I just want to say that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Props to you guys.
So
you're the
thanks,
real MVP.
Good old Dan, and only good old Dan.
No, I'm sure there's a couple more.
No, I'm just kidding.
Out there. But yeah, so make sure to look out for that. Also, over on Nintendo World Report TV YouTubes, I will be streaming Mario actually for a couple hours. Thursday.
Do you know what time?
Yep, it'll be Friday morning, which will actually be Thursday night. So it comes out at midnight Eastern time for me, obviously. I will be playing it from 1 to 3 a.m. Eastern time, and then...
Oh my goodness.
Again in the morning from 9 to 11 o'clock a.m. on Friday. So make sure to check that out if you're interested in seeing me play some Mario.
Yeah, he's gonna record a couple hours, and then he's gonna take a Red Bull / Pepsi break, and then come back for some more.
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
That's awesome. So we're going to be totally Mario Odyssey'd out on launch day. So yes, that's awesome. And of course, I'm assuming a lot of you are listening to this after it came out, and you can go back and watch it and listen and whatnot.
Yeah, and I guess real quick too, small chance that anyone listens to this before, the launch party in New York City. I will be in attendance. I don't know if it'll be the entire night, but I will be there for a couple hours early on. So if you are in New York and you're at the launch party, shoot me a message on Twitter or something, and maybe we can hang out and talk some games.
Yeah, and you can play some Bomberman.
Yeah, we very well could.
That would be funny.
But
anyway,
without further ado, I think it's time to hit the old dusty trail. and get ready for some Mario Odyssey, baby.
Shine, get.
Shine, get, baby.
Sayonara.
Alrighty.
I-
You take it. You take it.
Well, Casey.
I was the only one who couldn't be bothered sticking around though because he's so smelly.